Are you a chronically ill individual who wants to start their streaming career? Or are you already in the game and you're struggling to find some balance? Unfortunately, when living with a chronic illness, a lot of things can feel challenging or just downright impossible, especially streaming and content creation. It is a very competitive field. It takes a lot of grinding. Even for able-bodied individuals, it's a lot. So when you're adding chronic illness into the mix, it makes things a lot more complicated. It's definitely not for the faintest of hearts, especially if you want to make it a job, whether that be full-time or part-time. It takes a lot of energy mentally, physically, emotionally. So in this video, I'm going to be going over some practical, budget-friendly tips to help you on your journey towards streaming as a chronically ill individual. For those of you who don't know me, hi, my name is Punkster, and I am a chronically ill, Dead by Daylight, and horror content creator over on Twitch, as well as here on YouTube. I've been streaming for about 2 years now, and I have learned a lot about myself, the streaming space, trying to respect my body's limitations at the same time as trying to push myself when it comes to the grind of content creation. Before we jump into things, I did want to note that these are my personal experiences and things that I have found have helped me personally. I know that everyone's chronic illnesses can affect them differently. We also come from different lifestyles. Some people may have different limitations than others. Some of us work, some of us don't. So I really did just want to preface that if some of these tips don't resonate with you, that is totally okay. But please feel free to give them a try and see what works best for you. And if you did find stuff that did work for you, then great, then I did my job. All I want to do is try to help you find the best way to balance what's best for your body, but also finding that fulfillment that comes with wanting to do streaming. All right, so without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so the first tip that I really wanted to give out is to just start with what you have. The rest will come afterwards. And what I mean by that is you don't have to go out and get all the fancy tech and everything. I know it's something that you eventually want to get to, and it's always helpful to have good equipment. On the other hand, a lot of us who are chronically ill, a large portion of us struggle financially. A lot of us might be in situations where we can't afford the good camera, we can't afford a good mic. Personally, when I first started streaming, I had nothing but my PlayStation. I started streaming for myself first. Obviously, I had goals and I had things that I wanted to achieve moving forward, but at the end of the day, you gotta start somewhere. So if you have a PC or if you have a console that you want to stream on, just start there for now. All you would need is a headset with a mic. Even then, if you want to wait a little bit to get that, like you could always just start capturing your screen to start. At the end of the day, I think that's gonna leave you feeling some sort of fulfillment, as well as knowing that you did take a step towards doing what you wanted to do. Whatever you got, whatever works best for you, whatever you have access to, start there. Because when you're first starting out, the most important thing out of everything is honestly just taking that step forward and just simply starting. Once you start, once you get into the rhythm of everything, eventually things will come along the way. This is more of a mindset tip, if anything, because I feel like it's so easy to compare yourself to other people and what they have and what they have access to. If anything, it's just going to push you away from streaming altogether if you get stuck in that mindset of comparing yourself to other people. So really sit down with yourself, and if this is something that you really want and something that you're passionate about or something that you just want to start as a hobby, then just start. The second tip is probably one of the most important tips and something that took me a little while to learn, and that is listening to your body and finding a schedule that works best for you and works with your body, not against it. When I first started streaming, I started looking at what other people's schedules were to see what worked best for people, and I very quickly realized that I was burning myself out way too fast because I was comparing myself to able-bodied people who were able to stream 4 to 5 times a week, 6 to 7 hours a day. So I was not taking into consideration the fact that I am physically fatigued day in, day out, not taking into consideration my own bodily limitations. And then it just left me feeling sad and wondering if I'm even able to do this. Just because you can't keep up with schedules that other people are doing does not mean that you cannot keep up with your own schedule, which is why it is so important to make something that works best for you and works with your body and not pushing yourself too far. So once I stopped doing that and realized that that wasn't gonna work for me, I sat down with myself and tried to figure out a schedule that worked for me personally. What I found worked is starting out with shorter, spread out streams and then working yourself up to see what your body can or can't handle. So for me, I started streaming 2-hour stream 3 times a week, I believe. And for the time that I was doing that, that really worked out for me. I wasn't burning myself out. I still had that sense of fulfillment knowing that I was doing something that I really enjoyed without pushing my body in the process. And then eventually, once I got good at that, I started another day. So I was doing 4 days a week. And then after that, I did 3-hour streams. And then I did 4-hour streams. And then I really found that sweet spot with doing 3 to 4 hour streams, either 3.5 to 4 hours. That's what personally works best for me. But like I said, it's different for everybody. It's different for your body. You might be able to handle longer hours. You might only be able to handle 2-hour streams. Whatever you feel would best benefit your body is the most important part. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of pushing that you'll inevitably have to do when it comes to content creation. There's just going to be a lot of moments where you do have to push yourself a little bit, but we're going to get to that later. But for now, just try to sit down, look at your week, try to pick 2 to 3 days that would work best for you, and then start small. Start with 2-hour streams, do that, see how that feels for you, and then just eventually work your way up, but that'll take some time. So this one is kind of a segue into my next tip, which is something called pacing. Pacing is something that I learned a few years ago, and if I'm being honest with you, I don't think it's something that you will ever 100% have control over, but it's still something that's really important to practice and can be very, very useful. Pacing is essentially what it sounds like. You're pacing yourself throughout the day. It's very easy when we get excited about things or we feel like we have this deadline to get sucked into our work and to just sit on our computer for hours and hours and hours with no breaks or nothing. And when we push ourselves like that and we don't give ourselves those breaks, it'll inevitably just lead us to burnout, which will cause a domino effect of not getting our content out on time, not being able to show up to streams, not really being able to do anything. I've had plenty of moments where I've put a mental deadline on something and I've sat at my computer all day. I get really zoned in. I forget to eat. I forget to drink enough water for the day. And then the next day I wake up and I'm stuck in bed and I wonder why that happened. So it's really easy to fall into that trap and thinking that this needs to get done right now. And it's important to have a schedule and it's important to be consistent with things and to give yourself those deadlines so that you can get content out. On the other hand, if it's putting your body into a bad place, you gotta put your body first. And this is why pacing is so important. Because with pacing, you can essentially stop yourself from getting to that point, at least most of the time. Because let's face it, there's gonna be plenty of times where we get into a burnout state and we don't know why. I personally deal with that all the time and it's very, very frustrating. But learning the art of pacing can help you be consistent with your productivity, as well as being consistent with honoring what your body needs. Setting alarms on your phone can always be really helpful. Set it for an hour, have an hour of productivity. Once that hour is up, get up, go get a drink, go to the bathroom, grab a snack. If you're someone who deals with chronic pain like I do, make sure you get up and stretch, move your body a little bit. And then after like 15 minutes, just sit on your computer and go back to work. The most important part about pacing, however, is when you feel the fatigue starting to creep in. I really struggle with stopping myself when I feel my fatigue starting to get really bad. And that's kind of like the whole point of pacing, is you're trying to stop yourself from getting to a point where you're burning out, right? So when you do naturally start to feel the fatigue rolling in as you're being productive throughout the day, that should be a point where you need to stop. Listen to your body. If it says it's tired, go lay down for an hour. And if you start to feel better, get back up and you can be productive again. But if you feel like your body is telling you to stop altogether, then stop for the day. At the end of the day, it is what it is. You have to honor what your body is telling you to do, because if you don't listen to your body, it's just gonna cause problems down the line. So it's better to listen to your body now than ignore it and then watch everything slowly start to fall apart, which is never fun. This next tip is really important because it is something that is inevitable, and that is knowing when to push yourself and knowing when to put your body first. With content creation, it doesn't matter if you're chronically ill or not. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of grinding. It's a lot of hours spent at your computer. When you're not streaming, you're on computer working. When you're not on your computer working, you're watching tutorials on YouTube or you're looking for inspiration online. The work never stops. So unfortunately, even though we're chronically ill and our bodies are, breaking on us at all times, there are going to be moments where you have to weigh your options. For example, let's say you've had a charity stream planned for the last month. The day comes, you wake up, you're feeling a little more tired than usual, you're not 100% sure if you should continue with it. Doing those sorts of things are really, really important. And again, I'm just using that as example. It doesn't have to be a charity stream. However, if you have worked really hard for something that is really important for your channel, then it's probably best to stick with it because you've gathered all this hype around it. A lot of people are really excited to watch you. There is some sort of expectation there. And the reason it's important to show up is because you want to seem reliable. The more you say no to things, the more you drop out of things, you're gonna start to look like an unreliable streamer. And there does have to be a little bit of give and take. Don't get me wrong, it is totally okay to cancel things sometimes, because again, at the end of the day, we need to listen to our bodies, but there does have to be a balance of knowing when you should push yourself and when you should draw back and listen to your body and prioritize your rest. I can't really say too much on this as it does differ for every person what is important to you, but it is worth mentioning that yes, there are gonna be plenty of moments where you do unfortunately have to push yourself. If you're looking at this as more of a hobby, I would say you don't have to worry about this one too much. But if you're looking at streaming as a career or something that you do want to make consistent income with, then as with any job, it is important to have days where you do force yourself to show up. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to make any money if you don't show up. And it's the same thing with growth too. If you don't push yourself to make that content that day, then you're essentially losing out on the opportunity to grow as a streamer. Now I know sometimes there's moments where you post something and it ends up flopping and it doesn't generate views or it doesn't generate audience growth. However, you are removing that opportunity, and those opportunities can be crucial. If anything, I think this is more of an intuitive tip because this is something that you really have to listen to your body with. You know your limitations best, you know where to draw the line, so it's up to you to decide where to draw that line. My next tip is to remember that your journey is not going to look like everybody else's. I know how easy it can be to fall victim to the comparison game. You see other streamers doing well for themselves, grinding content left and right, and you end up thinking to yourself, well, I can't do that. I can't create content to that capacity that quickly, so I guess I'll never succeed. I've felt that plenty of times. You're not alone in that. Like anything in life, there is no one set path to getting to where you want to go. As chronically ill individuals, we only have so much energy to spare. That's an unfortunate truth. So the way healthy creators produce content is not going to look the same way that we produce content. All that means is that we have to shift our trajectory a little and find a path that does work for us. And just because that path might look a little different doesn't mean that it's not going to work out. When living with a chronic illness, our lives are inherently always going to look a little bit different than other people. So depending on your own bodily limitations, your path to success is going to look different than other people's. It might take us a little bit longer to reach those goals, but just because you're not producing at the same rate, just because you're not doing the same things the same way that other people are, that doesn't mean your content isn't good enough. This tip is actually one of the first things I started doing when I first started streaming, and that is getting cozy in a community that you love. Networking is the most helpful free tool that you have at your disposal. So if there's a game that you're really passionate about, make sure you're online, post hashtags with clips of that game, connect with other people who have passion for that game, connect with other streamers who are streaming that game. Doing this early on is really helpful because you're getting your foot in the door right away. And this ties in with the first tip that we talked about right at the beginning of the video. You don't need this fancy equipment right off the bat to get your foot in the door. The thing that's going to help you get your foot in the door is talking to people in the community. One tip that I will give in regards to that though is don't be inauthentic about it. Reach out to people because you do want to have that conversation with them. And all of this relates to my next tip, and it's all about building a connection with people. Don't be afraid to let people behind the scenes of your life. One thing that I've personally noticed that has been really helpful for me is that posting more about my life, whether it just be a photo of my outfit for the day, sharing more about my life outside of streaming, has been absolutely game-changing. One of the strongest assets you have as a creator is cultivating connections with people online. But the key to this isn't merely doing it just for the sake of building up your brand, doing it because you want to connect with people about certain topics or certain games. Authenticity is huge. This tip some people may disagree with or may even be a little bit controversial, but again, this is coming from personal experience. This is something that I started doing from the beginning and something that personally worked for me. Putting all your focus into one game or one niche can be really helpful in the very beginning. As you grow as a creator, there's going to be a day where you do want to shift gears and try other things and incorporate different things into your streams and your content. But when you're first starting out and you're still relatively small, I think prioritizing one game or one hobby and making it your main attraction can be very helpful. Just like anything else, you can't get great at anything unless you put 100% into it. Putting 20% into this and putting 20% into that, then another 15% into this, and then a 10% into this, and whatever, it's gonna feel like a slow burn. However, if you put 100% into one thing, make it your goal to get really good and leave your mark in that space, you'll most likely reach that point sooner. When I first started streaming, I put my all into Dead by Daylight. And I still do, but that's besides the point. I consumed related content every single day, played the game lots, posted clips to social media frequently. Every day that I was working, whether that be streaming or creating content for somewhere else, it was all Dead by Daylight. Eventually, I got really good at analyzing what other people consuming this content really liked, whether that was live or offline or what hashtags worked best. And then slowly and surely, I grew in this space. I truly believe that this is something worth trying, especially if you have a lot of passion for a certain game. People are gonna feel that passion. If you feel really passionately about a game and you put 100% into that, people are gonna feel that in your content and they're gonna feel it while you're streaming. And that is how you're gonna leave a mark. Like I said, there's a lot of different variables to this. Like if it's a highly saturated game, it might be a little more challenging to leave your mark in that space. But that leads us to our next tip, and that is finding your niche and finding what makes you unique. This tip in particular, you're not gonna find that right away. It's something that I'm still figuring out. When I first started, even the first year, I had no clue what made me unique, what made people wanna watch me specifically. Making yourself into a brand is one of the hardest things you will ever do in content creation. I mean, for me personally, the way that I viewed myself for so long was I'm just a person, you know? I'm just a person on the internet trying to make a living off of something that I enjoy doing for fun. So after about a year in, I started to really realize the importance importance of branding. And out of everything, it is probably the hardest thing you will ever have to figure out. Trying to figure out your own brand and a niche, it takes a lot of knowing who you are, the things you like. It's something you really need to dive into your soul to figure out. Not only that, but when you do figure that out, you need to figure out a way to manifest it into a physical, tangible aesthetic. It's a lot. It's confusing. However, I just wanted to make that one of the final tips because it is something that you do want to work towards eventually, but it's not something that you necessarily need to figure out right away because it does take a lot of time, a lot of experimenting, and a lot of knowing who you are and what you want to make of yourself in the streaming space. Really quickly, the last thing that I wanted to go over are some budget-friendly tools that have helped me in content creation. The first one that's been really helpful is keeping a planner. This is my planner. Every single week I go into it and I write down what my content schedule is going to look like, when my YouTube video is going to be posted, what days I should be editing my YouTube content, as well as my streaming days and what things I want to be doing on those streaming days. These things are great. They really help you keep on track with your content, especially as a chronically ill person, because when you see things physically and you write down what you want to do every single day, it helps keep you organized and make sure that you're not burning yourself out at both ends. Obviously, I know that not everybody has access to buying one of these. Really depends on your situation. I know it's tough times right now, so if you can't afford a planner, a free tool that you can use online is a website called Notion. Notion is a single place where you can write out all of your ideas as well as planning things on a calendar. You can manage all your projects on there, but it's also been really helpful for making lists of content that I do want to make and then looking at that list and then putting it on a content calendar on there. I'll make sure to put a link in the description for that. The next thing that's been really helpful for me in terms of making TikTok content is using Crossclip. Crossclip has been a game changer for me and has been something that I've been using since the beginning because it saves you so much time. You get to make your own layout for where you want your webcam to go, where you want your content to go, and then all you have to do is export it in one button and then boom, you have your TikTok. Crossclip is free to use. I personally have the pro version. It's only $4.99 a month and you get access to exporting it in 1080, 60 frames per second, as well as removing the watermark. Like I said, there's a free version. You do not have to get the pro version. Even paying for the pro version, it is fairly inexpensive, so something to think about. Right, the next thing that I wanted to mention is DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is a free editing software. There is a paid version that gives you access to essentially everything on it. However, it's like $400. You do not want to pay that amount of money, especially us who don't have jobs, okay? I think it's definitely something that maybe moving forward, if content creation does become your full-time job and is something you're very serious about, I think down the line, it's very helpful to get. However, a lot of us are on a budget, and that's exactly what we're talking about. So there is a free version. And I've been using the free version for some time now, and it has been amazing. It is such an amazing tool, such an amazing software. It's really stepped up my editing game. There's a lot of different transitions on it. Looking at it first, it can be a little overwhelming, but there are tons of tutorials online. Once you've watched a few tutorials, you get the hang of it, and it is really easy to use. Following that, another free thing that I use is Canva. Canva I use for making posters, making thumbnails, everything like that. It is free to use. Again, I do pay for the pro version, but that's only because when you have the pro version, you have the ability to remove backgrounds and stuff. So that personally has been really helpful in making thumbnails. But again, not necessary. So Canva itself is free to use. I'll also put that in the link description if you guys haven't already checked it out. Something else that has been very helpful and something that I've been doing for a long time is just YouTube. YouTube can be so helpful. Whenever I'm looking for a specific sound clip or a green screen that I want to use, I just go to YouTube and type in copyright free and then whatever thing that I'm looking for. YouTube has so many options. And then I literally just use a free online converter, which I can also put the one that I use in the description. Obviously, there's a lot of different online converters that you can get. This one I use all the time. The internet is amazing. Like, there's a lot of free tools that you have access to. You just need to look in the right places. The other thing that I want to mention about YouTube is their tutorials. Everything that I have learned about streaming, about content creation, about my editing software, quite literally everything I have ever learned, period, I've learned on YouTube. So what I'll actually do is I'll actually chunk out time, put specific days on my planner to do research on YouTube, whether that's to improve my streaming experience with widgets or extensions, or looking up tutorials on specific things that I want to do in terms of editing. When you get into streaming or content creation, I think you're always striving for the next best thing. You always want to improve yourself. YouTube tutorials are perfect for that. All right, and then finally, the last thing that I want to mention that I actually just found out recently is something called TubeBuddy. TubeBuddy is an extension specifically for YouTube to help you find the best keywords and tags and thumbnails for you to use to help improve your YouTube analytics. Once again, it is free to use and there is a pro version. I started paying for the pro version because you do have more chances of looking up keywords. With the free version, I think you only get to use 5 a day or something like that, or 8 a day. I can't remember specifically, but there is a limit on how many keywords you can look up in one day. The pro version is only $8 a month, but I know that not everybody has the access to do so. All right, well, there you go. That was my final tip. As I mentioned before, streaming and content creation is a lot for anybody. When you have a chronic illness, everything takes a lot of work. A lot of people don't realize just how little energy we have. So trying to create consistent content is a lot. There are going to be plenty of days where you honestly just want to give up on this. There's going to be days where you just break down crying because you're just so tired. If it's something that you're really passionate about, like I am, you'll find a way to make it work. And at the end of the day, it really is just about listening to your body. After 2 years of streaming, I can sit here in front of the camera and confidently tell you that it is possible to succeed in this as a chronically ill person. You just need to define what success means for you. Not everybody wants to make this a full-time job. Not everybody wants this to be just a hobby. I really encourage you to sit down after this video and think on what success in this space means for you. Because like I said, you can find success as a chronically ill creator. You just need to define what success means for you. Be willing to work hard for it, but at the same time respecting your body's limitations. Be patient with yourself. You'll get there eventually, but you're not going to get there any faster if you push yourself to the point where your body just can't handle it anymore. You're going to have plenty of bad days. You're going to have days where you do need a break. I've had times where I've had to take a whole week off, and it's okay to take those breaks. It's totally okay to take a step back for a minute, regain your strength, and then get back to your schedule. Remember that it's okay to push yourself sometimes, but make sure you're not pushing yourself to the point where there's no going back. And I think the last thing I'll say is enjoy the ride. Enjoy the process of it. Enjoy learning new things. Enjoy watching tutorials on things and getting excited about upping your game. And just remember that everything happens in your own time. Don't compare yourself to other creators, especially don't compare yourself to healthy content creators, because what they're doing is always going to look entirely different to the way that we do things, and that is okay. Good luck on your streaming journeys, and if you have any questions or if you want me to make any other videos, make sure to put it in the comments below. I would be more than happy to make more videos regarding these sorts of topics or answer any of your questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I really appreciate it, and I really hope this helps. Let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up. It really helps. And if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. And if you're interested in my Twitch, make sure to go follow me over on there. I stream every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. All right, that is officially the end of the video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and as always, I will see you next time. Bye.